Hi, my name is Karen Holmes. I'm the founder and director of the World Peace Organization for the One World Government. The plan for world peace is still an amorphous idea that is being discussed and talked about, and people are trying to destroy it. They're trying to, it's like it's there, and some people really like it and some people really hate it, and some people think that it's the worst thing that could happen and they're doing everything they can to destroy it. Okay, so it's still an amorphous shape, and that's okay. Every idea starts out this way. In fact, I'm writing a book about that right now and it's about the plan. I started out with an idea. This is like an assignment that I had, and I started out with the idea. It was so big, and I just couldn't get. I couldn't figure out how to condense everything down into a small enough idea. Even coming up with just the planning process and such. I already have that online. I already have like the track our progress information and things like that. So trying to take this huge idea that we got at the prayer circle, and I channeled a book called A Manual for Peace, and then A Manual for the One World Government, and then A Manual for Creativity, and started a manual for social reform. And all of these different parts of it were let's say small pieces of it, of a very big idea, and I've been trying to condense it. Well, then I started to realize that I was missing out on something, and that was I finally figured it out after all this time. But as what this plan has done so far is it has created a not only just a body of knowledge that we're working on now, which is where true power comes from, and why the power games that people are playing don't work and things like that. That's my job to address that. But then other people will come and address different ideas, and I've told you this before. Today I wanted to talk about something about the plan that allows people to understand where we are right now. And I've been talking about this, my invention here, and about our relationship with our Creator. And I wanted to bring that out because this is our relationship with our Creator is our most important relationship we have. This demonstrates 12 different kinds of relationships, like family, adversaries, the people who help us create our life, the people who give us voices, and the people who are our mentors, and then the different, you could say, is the different kingdoms: the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the elementals, which are let's say the characters of legend, and I'll go into those at other times. And then there's like where we travel, like where the aliens travel interdimensionally. You could say we are aliens also when we think about going to another planet. When we think about doing that, where we don't even know if we actually devolved from here, or if on the planet Earth, or whether the common knowledge is whether or not there's been times in history where there's been like a leap of evolution, and is it because we just missed out on understanding that segment of our history, or was there something from outside? There's like all the stories about let's say the Nazca lines and what's her name? I can't think. I keep thinking of somebody else. The one who was out on the limb, Shirley MacLaine, and out on the limb and talking about aliens are already here, and of course they're already here in the UFOs and such. So what is our relationship with them, and all of these different relationships that we have here? But our most important relationship was with our Creator. You could say this is the battle between light and darkness. And what is light? Is that something where you feel joy or peace or what? No, we don't know what the difference is with light and darkness. What exactly is the battle of light and darkness? And why are we dealing with this? And what is light and what is darkness? And how can, in terms of how is it applied, is if something is terrifying you, what happens if it's something where you just have a fear of it and you don't understand what it is? When you look at something without judgment, then it goes away. So if you run from your fear, it gets bigger. So we're going to talk about all these different ideas from a very sane and logical perspective, where it'll fit into your idea, into where you are, into your thinking, what you've been exposed to all your life. Today, I wanted to put this aside, but we're going to talk about our relationship with God, the Creator, about universal law, karma. For world peace to come, everybody had to be exposed to universal law. And that's when I told you in my last video that I sent my letter to the Supreme Court to the embassies in Washington, D.C. to introduce universal law as the basis for the legal system of the international government. So we're looking at this on all the different levels, on the individual level and the society that we live in, the community, our nation, our country, our world, and internationally, interstellarly even. We're looking at how the Creator, is functioning on all the different levels. And I'm even going to tell you what's beyond the Big Bang Theory, and how we go all the way to the prime universe. We're going to talk about all of these different ideas and how they fit in. Today I wanted to talk about, as I talked about the idea of something that was so big and making it smaller. We've been exposed to things over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like there's a cycles, things move in cycles. So we keep going around in circles over and over again. And there's like a billion-year cycle. The Earth is 4 billion years old, supposedly. So we're on the billion-year cycle. We all know about minutes and hours and years, and we know about decades and centuries and millennia. We experienced just 22 years ago a new millennium, the start of a new millennium, and the end of the old one, and how these play out. So we've been exposed to time. We've been exposed to different ideas. Today, I wanted to look at what was separating our country, and how to we have elections coming up in just 5-6 weeks, something like that. And now what we're doing is we're looking at the division and how it's playing out. This battle between light and darkness. Okay, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to start out with our Pledge of Allegiance. Okay? And what our Pledge of Allegiance as American citizens is, this is a flag that was basically belonged to a really dear friend of mine. This was her flag, and she cared very much about our country, but she was a spiritual teacher. She was a Reiki master, a healer, and so I wanted to use her flag today. She was one of the core group of the prayer circle. So today, I'm going to put this right over here on the side. So what does our Pledge of Allegiance to the United States say? Let's leave it right off here to this side. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag. Okay, I'm an American citizen, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God. Okay, so that puts us kind of into the battle between who's God. What is God? Who is God? Is God the old man on the throne idea? Is God where you can say he's the God of vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, so I'm going to get revenge on you. You know, I'm standing with God and I'm going to put the armor of God on. And who is God? Okay, and then how, if God is vindictive, like an Old Testament version of God, where God is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, does that leave out women? Does that leave out children? How does all of this fit in to our one nation under God, giving everybody equal justice under the law? Okay? See, basically what we have to do is we have to start to understand who God is and universal law. And universal law stands on these principles. And these are the principles, like I said before, that counter the 7 deadly sins. The Catholic Church, so we have an American symbol that children all over the United States, Congress, before they start the session, they put their hand over their heart and they say the Pledge of Allegiance. And then they go back to work, and then they just kind of rip people apart and they deny people their equal justice under the law. They're working hard, but there's this battle between where power is. Well, okay, I'm a senator, I'm the Grim Reaper, I'm going to wipe out your rights. But the senators are there, our founding fathers put into our Constitution the idea that because we're a nation of states with large populations, small states with small populations, and large states with large populations, and how do you balance everything out so that there's equal justice under the law? And that is, they created a bicameral legislative branch. There's 2 branches. There's the House and the Representatives, and then there's the Senate. And the Senate is designed to address the rights of the people. And that doesn't matter how many senators you have per person, but the will of the people is the House of Representatives. So we're looking at the House of Representatives. They get elected, they face re-election every 2 years because things change in our country in 2 years. And where we are as a nation, the Constitution is like an evolutionary idea, not because it can be amended, but because it represents all of our laws, and everything represent where we are as a nation. When the founding fathers started and they wrote the Constitution, they couldn't get everybody to agree on the issue of slavery, so they had to they created this idea because of the economic structure and because of the prejudice, and so we have to understand where slavery came from, how it evolved, and why it evolved, and this battle in power. We're looking at now where power is. Once we understand, and I told you about the idea of, let's say, world peace is like the center of a circle, and then you have outside of it all the different parts of world peace, like it breaks apart into the idea of peace. What is world peace? What is our evolution? What does our evolution look like? How about technology? What are the principles of true technology? What will bring us world peace? Is it world peace at any cost, peace at any cost, or is it what are the principles of evolution? Okay, where are we going? Are we going to destroy ourselves out of power and greed? And this happened to us a long time ago, 15,000 years ago, or however long it was ago. We don't know, because time is not easy to understand when we're talking about geological time. But there was a war that on the planet that left a big, huge rift. It sunk this history of Atlantis, you could say, and you may not believe it, but it happened. It sunk by using technology, they sunk 2 continents. Okay, and there is actual evidence that it existed. Okay, it cannot be erased. It's there. The evidence is there. In fact, I have personal understandings about this whole thing. Okay, then it's not just in our memories and our visions. There's physical evidence of it. But when you have world peace in the center, then you take a sense of duality and you unify it. And this is where we are with our Pledge of Allegiance. One nation under God, the creator of us all, definition of God, not the one that's the Judeo-Christian idea where we're going to make everybody Christians. We're going to go out and make the whole world Christians, or we're going to make them all Muslims, or we're going to make them all whatever country you live in and whatever religion you believe. It's that they all fit together with this idea that when you understand the true principles of it, it's a unifying force. Our flag is a unifying force for us because it's even designed with the idea that we have states and we have the original colonies, the original ideas, and we have all the different this information here. Okay, red is the color of creativity. White is the color of light. White is an overview color, and when you divide it up into different parts through running it through a prism, the other day I saw a rainbow, a double rainbow. It was absolutely stunning. I stood there and watched it for a long time, and see, rainbows for me are really important because my business, I'm a channel. I channel God. I channel all the way. I can speak to anyone on the other side. That's my gift. And when my bookstore is called On the Rainbow Peace Store. On the Rainbow, I'm working on the rainbow, walking the rainbow to create the life you want. So when you divide light up into sections like a prism, what you have is you have all the principles of each of the different colors gives us our light, the light and darkness. So when you take light and you separate it out, light is a creative substance that when you put a thought form into it creates matter. So you can create the life you want by understanding the principles of creativity and the principles of light. But the principles of darkness is fear. What part of God don't you understand is the root cause of fear? What part of all that is don't you understand? And that's darkness. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start talking about how all of these different things have fit in together. Like in our American flag, blue is the color of security. White is the color, I said, of creativity, but it's an overview idea of creativity. So we have the symbolism. We have the symbolism. Christmas is coming up pretty soon. They're already starting to put in our local big box store. They're already starting to put up Halloween's been there for a while, but there's one aisle there for the lights. People to put up Christmas lights for the outsides of their house, for example. While the weather is still fairly decent. We're having this is the end of September, and we're finally getting our really good weather. I live on the coast, and September is the best weather we have when all the kids are back in school. The kids get so frustrated around here because they're back in school when the weather is the best. Okay, so but it'll start to change real soon. The leaves are already half off the trees around here. Okay. So, and that was another thing. I had a spontaneous healing one time and I was sitting out. I had like dislocated my shoulder, and it was one of those things where you go, oh, I've done something really bad. This is bad. And I sat down and I looked out I knew that I had wrenched it really bad, and it was probably dislocated, and it was in really terrible shape. And when I looked outside, I sat down and I looked out at the ocean, and I looked out at the waves coming in and the leaves, and I thought, everything is in perfect order. I mean, the leaves change at the right time. They know, nature knows what to do. Everything is in perfect order, and I'm just sitting here enjoying it. My shoulder, it was okay. I spontaneously healed. It was like, and people around me, I was working on a scaffolding, and I fell off the scaffolding. I dragged myself out of. I fell off, and I was hanging by one arm, and I went, okay. And when people realized that I had hurt myself real bad, I said, I'm okay. Look, there was absolutely. I didn't know when I did that I was going to be able to go like this. It was no fear. When I got rid of the fear, I knew that everything, I was part of all that is, and there was no evidence that I had any injury whatsoever. It was like everything just was peace. Everything was just that center point of peace when you know that everything is in perfect order. And that's where nature, we're part of the earth, we're part of the world, we're part of all that is. And that's one of the things that we learn, the fear when the battle between light and darkness happens, is when we realize that everything is playing out, that we don't have to have any fear, that is all playing out. So that's what I'm going to do. After I saw the double rainbow, I had gone on there. Somehow I got onto rainbows on searching, and I saw a picture of a triple rainbow. It came up because I love rainbows. My computer is all rainbows because that's the name of my business, and my books are. And so what happened was I saw a picture of a triple rainbow, and what ironically, I had been talking about my letter to the Supreme Court, having 3 levels. Well, my books only had 2 levels. They had the Flower of Life level, and then they had the project level. It had 2 levels, but then I forgot there was the 3rd level, that there was the principles level, and then there's the Flower of Life level, and then there's the project level. So my bookstore, and I was just going, this doesn't make sense. I had this huge body of knowledge that was given to me, all these books. I started out with the first book, number 1, number 2, number 3. Then I got more and more books, and I had to sort them out. And then I had 3 digits in my item numbers. And then I went to 4 digits, and then I had 5 digits. Now I've got 5 digits, and I'm sorting this out and getting it all figured out in my head. So when I saw, I said, I'm forgetting, it's 3 levels. Of course it is. And then I had to put another page in, the principles level. So that's what my book is now that I'm working on, is the principles of the plan. The idea of all of this stuff, coming up with a plan, an idea. And what happens when you come up with an idea, when you are creating something with light. Now, what happens is you create the sense of duality with creativity, and you can either create something new that has never happened before, or you can create on the opposite side of that, where we're looking at the issues of crisis in the family. On the lower side, opposing world peace is crisis in the family, and then also the principles of security and abundance. So we're creating a sense of lack of abundance, poverty, and famine. Although nature is so abundant that you can take 1 tomato and turn it into a whole industry, you could say, a whole business. And then we're taking the principles, the color red, which is the color of creativity. So you could say that I'm teaching the principles, you could say, of creativity, of light, the battle between light and darkness. It explaining all of these things. In the United States, we have a government, a constitution, and we have one nation under God. Under God, we are indivisible because we have justice, equal justice for everyone. We have everyone with justice for all, with liberty, meaning rights, and justice for all. But we have to understand what the definitions of rights are, what the definition of God is, what the definition, the unifying definition of that. The rainbow, the triple rainbow that I saw a vision of, had the double rainbow, which is the really bright one, the main rainbow. Then there is the secondary rainbow, but the other rainbow was not a bow like this. It was in that picture that they showed. They only had supposedly evidence of 6 of them in the world. They've only seen 6 times in the world where there's been a triple rainbow, according to the article I saw. And it said the rainbow was at an angle. It was just a small piece of rainbow that was a vertical piece right next to it. So if you had it like this, it would be just a small piece off to the side, which makes absolute sense, because what happened is not speaking of how the prism worked, but how when you're making a paradigm shift, it's at a right angle. So the main people working on creating their life, fulfilling their purpose in life, and then the projects level, and then the small group of people who have made a paradigm shift in their thinking, and they're the ones who are leading the way, you could say, standing on the principles of it. And then everybody else are applying the principles, the flower of life people. So an example of this, you could say, I imagine that one of those triple rainbows occurred at the time of Jesus of Nazareth and the 12 disciples. So what exactly happened with Jesus and the 12 disciples? Was Jesus God, or was he human? And the fight between that was, what happened with religion and Jesus? Is this the one true religion that everybody's supposed to be Christians? What is your definition of Christianity? And we're going to talk about that in the Faith of the Puree, one of the projects where we unify all the 7 world's religions into this one idea of how to create the life you want and how to fulfill the purpose you want. So we're going to get to know God better. We're going to get to know religions better and be more tolerant of the religions as we address all these ideas, how we overcome our fears, the Catholic religion basically is responsible for the 7 deadly sins, teaching the 7 deadly sins, but they've gotten off course. Instead of talking about the 7 deadly sins, it became, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, like the 10 Commandments. So what we're going to do now is we're going to separate all of these ideas, and we're going to look at them, and we're going to understand them in a way that is like we can understand how to unify our country by standing on the principles of our democracy, one nation, by the Pledge of Allegiance. If the members of Congress put their hands on their heart every morning before they open a new session, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, we are indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to start to look at the Pledge of Allegiance and how it works and how it has a unifying force. Then when Congress separates out, they're going, they're fighting each other and they're twisting each other and they're taking away the rights of the people. Do they have the right to take away rights? That's what we're going to address in the first idea is, okay, those guys over there are Muslims in Iraq. They're Muslims. They don't understand God. Their religion, I'm just blah, 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 okay? I'm not saying that because I honestly don't believe it. I believe that our Creator went to the Prophet Muhammad and taught him the principles of equality and all the different things that are associated with that. So, like I said, we'll go into that when we unify all the world's religions with the faith of the pure ray. And then, the reason I'm talking about that too is because Christmas is coming. A whole new year, you could say, of where you go around and create the life you want. So that's how we can understand that. The faith of the pure is like a school where you go to learn how to create the life you want. We're unifying all the religions. Understanding God is like the light. So do we want to create our lives and work to create our lives and understand all these ideas? Or do we want to create another thing like the pandemic? Because the pandemic, light is a thought form that's manifested into the physical, a creative substance. Light is a creative substance, but darkness is also a creative substance. It's the absence of light. And when you're reacting out of fear, when you don't understand what's going on, that's when you create viruses. And that's what my letter to on the website explains about how viruses have been manifested into the physical, and how we can look at the virus and separate that out and create a unifying structure that allows viruses to be gone without vaccines, without spending a lot of money, without all of these ideas that are so terrifying to us, like wrenching your shoulder and being sick and worried that you're injured, and how you can spontaneously heal it by understanding that everything is in perfect order. But first of all, you have to understand why it's in perfect order. Okay, so we'll look at how to create perfect order. Okay, that's all I wanted to talk about today. So I ask that you like, share, and subscribe. If you like, what it'll do is it allow other people to, when they're searching for something like this, to see it. It'll go into the algorithm a little bit better. Okay, so that's all for today. Christmas is coming, so we're going to start thinking about the life that you want to create. If you want to create your life, if you're doing that, people, all right, let me explain one more thing before I go. When people feel that they can't create the life they want, they go through a process of fear. It's like, what am I going to do and how to do it? And one of the things that happens is I'm kind of empathic. There are times when I've picked up people's emotions, and I picked up the idea of a murderer. I picked up how a murderer was thinking, and he felt that his life had been taken away from him. So when you feel that your life has been taken away from you, that's when you feel that you're going to take away other people's lives. You're reacting out of fear. What part of fear of God don't you understand? So what happened was I was in the emotional aura, so to speak. That's not the right word. The emotional body. He was emoting all of these emotions of a murderer, a man who had when he killed two people, a man and a woman who was pregnant, and her new boyfriend, and then he went out into a parking lot and shot himself. I was in the emotional, and what he was feeling was profound despair because he couldn't figure out how to get his life. So if you are in a situation where you know that people are in profound despair, you can share this information with them and then start to separate that out. We've had so many school shootings. We've had so many people going into malls and shooting people, going into churches and going into buildings, and they're in despair. And the reason they are in despair is because they can't figure out how to create their life. So once we start unraveling all this stuff, the mental illness will start to go away. The fears will start to go away. The murdering will stop. The need to the motivation that will cause people to shoot people. So when I ask you to like, share, and subscribe, I'm asking you to send this information out and allow people who are needed to hear this information. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you for stopping by.